Well, hello, folks. Hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Bill, and this is All Minus One. I see we have some regulars in the chat. We have Miss Holly and Dahari, and I haven't streamed here in like I don't know 6, 8 weeks. It's been a while, been a long time, and I've been busy doing other stuff of sorts, but not nearly as busy as I should be. So it's whatever. My daughter is being quite active, and of course, you guys catch me over on the Ends Justify the Memes and elsewhere that I have been. But if you are new to the channel, new to this channel, and since I've been on hiatus for reasons which I'll cover in a second, the purpose or what I try to focus on this particular channel is the things that create strong societies, and to look at our world from a early Christian, that is an anti-Nicene or first, second, and third century Christian type perspective. Now, not everything I do is orientated towards Christianity, but I tend to bring it back around quite a bit because it is the religious philosophy which I subscribe to, and I talk a lot about metaphysics because I'm quite into philosophy. I'm not a trained philosopher per se, as I'm an autodidactic individual. But um, the pillars of our society are crumbling around us. We all know this, right? If you're watching me, you're a regular. You could see it. You're aware of it. You're incensed by it because it is ridiculous. And the reason why is because we are going through an identity crisis here in the Western world. We don't know who we are. We believe that our entire society started during the Enlightenment. And that is absurdity. So we've thrown God out and we've thrown the past out before that. And we know better than all of our ancestors, apparently. I don't believe any of this is true. So again, my focus here is to talk about things that, of course, news, that kind of stuff that I find interesting, but to bring about, the philosophical questions of why are we seeing this downfall? And I go through history and a lot of stuff. So welcome guys to the channel. If you're new here, appreciate it. Even if you aren't watching live, then later on, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't been subscribed in the past. Also, if you go and you're watching this on YouTube, down in the description is a link to DLive if you prefer to watch there. I'm live on DLive. There is also an Entropy link. Entropy is a free speech site that basically restreams, and you all can make donations if you would please. That's up to you. In that link, there is also an Odyssey page. If you guys are so willing to go over there, I would greatly appreciate that because I want to be able to start live streaming on Odyssey. Now, there's some things that I have to do that, and I'll bring them up real quick. So, apologize, guys, for all the housekeeping here, real quick. But this is what I got to do when I haven't been on the channel for weeks, quite a long time. So you can find me here at AllMinusOne on Odyssey. And if you go over to the support thing here, you have to have so many people or so many Odyssey money, however this works, in order to be able to live stream. So that's up to you guys to some degree, me as well, as I upload there. I was uploading there kind of regularly last year, and I kind of dropped it because it had some complications for me. And so I started using PeerTube and other sources like Rumble. But I want to get back on the Odyssey thing. So I guess you guys can dispense this money and then it boosts your channel or whatever. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I will be streaming there eventually. But right now I just need people to go over there and follow. That's probably more important. So that'd be greatly appreciated. And let's get into some topics, some things. So the first thing I actually want to bring about here is something that's been going around. I watched it live. I have seen it in my meme mining cut, but I actually downloaded the episode myself and cut myself this little clip from Tim Pool the other night. And I know a lot of people don't like Tim Pool for various reasons. I think most of them are not very good reasons. Most of them are absurd reasons, but whatever. You're allowed to like who you like and don't like who you don't like. It doesn't bother me. But Tim had a very important rant. And the reason why it's important is because the guy is 35. He's got several million, well, he's got 1 million and some odd subs on all of his channels. He's quite influential. He goes on other news networks, and he has a lot of people on. So Tim is a voice in the culture that is being propped up, and he's a good litmus test for where the rest of society's at in some ways, because he's kind of a normie, not completely, but he won't get into the more darker side of things, the conspiratorial side of life. So, but he does understand, I believe, the basic issues. I'll put this in real quick.
If these allegations that we're seeing,
these people are
true,
evil.
I'm asking myself, who
Adam Goldman of the New York Times, evil. We've got to stop playing these games. This is a guy who got privileged legal communications under the United States Constitution and our laws and norms. You have a right to legal counsel. And the guy at the New York Times gleefully published this from a rival organization. Why? They want this country to burn. They want power, and they will get it by any means necessary, and they will use the power of the federal government to do it. I am looking at all of you right now, and I am telling you this. The police will kick your door in and bash your teeth out the moment Black Lives Matter protests you. We've already seen it happen. You think this is a joke? James O'Keefe's legal privileged communications were just given to the New York Times, and Adam Goldman, with a smile on his face, published it. He doesn't care about this country. He doesn't care about our norms. These people are at war with you, and they will burn your life to the ground like they're doing to Rittenhouse and like they're doing now to James O'Keefe, because you dare oppose their power grab. This is not a joke, and it is getting worse. And in the next 10 years, as we enter the fourth turning and it escalates, it is going to get worse. James O'Keefe is a journalist. The federal government stole his privileged legal communications and gave it to the New York Times, who published it with a smile on their faces. These people do not hold your values. They do not believe in the Constitution. The prosecutor in the Rittenhouse case violated the Constitution. They will do it again. They will do it more, and they will burn down your town, and the feds will protect them, and the police will protect them. Stop thinking the institutions are on your side. This country is being corrupted, and we are watching it every day, and it has gotten to the point where you need to ask yourself, will the police protect you when someone comes to your town and threatens to kill you? No. The detectives in Kenosha, the prosecutor went against the young man who was fleeing for his life. And James O'Keefe, an anti-establishment individual, and I mean that with respect, but he is outright just a journalist, is facing the boot of the authoritarian fascist government. And it will get worse, and it will happen to you because you keep complying. And you keep saying, but my kids need food. And now inflation is here, and there's food shortages, and your kids aren't eating, and the schools are indoctrinating your kids. Now we see a turnaround with Youngkin because the parents are standing up. But too many people keep saying, as long as I keep filleting the state and dropping on my knees for the far left extremists, I will squeak by, and you will not. The police will come to your home. They will kick your door in, and they will arrest you, because the good cops have already started quitting. And like we saw in Seattle, the police arrested the man who was retreating from Antifa as Antifa approached him with clubs in hand. And they apologized to Antifa over it. Like we saw in the Chaz, when several men unloaded hundreds of rounds into an SUV, and then the extremists stripped the evidence from the vehicle, and none of those people are brought to justice. And now we are at the point where Project Veritas is having their private, privileged, legal communications leaked to the New York Times, who with a smile on their face violate all norms, all respect, and lack all scruples. And you think sitting back and complying will result in you getting by. You are wrong. I'm sick of this.
Preach.
All right, guys. So, and Tim is not wrong here. He's 100% right. And I know the arguments from friends of mine who are other YouTubers that go, oh, well, but the problem is people have jobs. Yeah, they have jobs. That's right. And you need to be willing to quit your job in order to stand up for your principles, or you have no principle. Your principle is money. That's your principle. Your principle is safety and security by the hands of the government, unless you are willing to stand up for yourself and say no. No, I get it. It's a hard thing. You know, and someone might say, well, Bill, you got to have money. I agree. But I left a job some years ago because it violated my principles, and then I went back into a similar line of work a few years later after I was hurt because I felt like I had no choice, and it ended up being a bad scenario. And since then, I'm like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to work for these unethical, immoral people. I don't care about money. Now, I do have a family that I have to support, so money must come in. But it's not, I don't care to be wealthy. I will be perfectly happy living a very simple life. In fact, my entire goals for life, my wife and I talk about this often, are to become self sustaining in basically the mountains of West Virginia. Now, I would like to have other people nearby, community, this and that, but you can take what you can get. And again, Tim is 100% correct. Like this stuff should have been going on far longer. People should have been getting outraged far earlier than they have been, but they are so seduced by the modern zeitgeist, by the presuppositions of our industrial age, most of which are falsehoods. When someone goes, well, everybody knows such and such and such, everybody believes, they don't know. My favorite generally when it comes to these things is like diet, because I have a lot of knowledge in that field. Now, I'm not some expert. I'm not an expert in anything per se. Maybe certain martial arts or something like that, I have certifications in. But otherwise, I don't really consider myself an expert. I'm more of a polymath and a Renaissance type man, if you would. I believe that in fact experts are detrimental to most of society. There should be very few of them, and they should be taken with a grain of salt, because they're human beings and their opinions often are not backed by the data. A good example of this would be the experts at START. START is the organization in which the federal government gets its information about terrorist acts and suggestions of who are terrorists. START, the main actor at START, I can't recall his name off the top of my head, he does not believe that left-wing violence, such as groups like BLM or Antifa, are considered terroristic, despite the fact that, right over my shoulder there, while I was in the Marine Corps, I was in an anti-terrorist unit. I have a quite large amount of training on it. That wasn't a typical normal Marine unit. We were very small, had a lot of money. We had a lot of training, a lot of firearms training, very different than most units. And anti-terrorism was huge. You had to have a secret clearance to work there. In the essential definition of terrorism is any act or threat of harm for political gain. That's just plain and simple. But this guy at START, the START organization, they like left-wing politics. Therefore, those people aren't terrorists. Now, their data also says, and I've talked about this in the past, I made some videos some time ago. You guys can go search my videos and find it. The data also says that those people who are the greatest threat to America right now, the white supreme pizzas, they're not the greatest threat. The data does not back that up, yet START makes that claim. And that's the problem with experts, folks. They are human beings. I'm very much into the collective figuring out of things amongst people, not democratically per se, but through discussion, right? You have to hash it out. And again, this is what makes us strong society. A weak society has experts. A weak society is a society that says, oh, no, the king is a god, and therefore everything he says, we do. A weak society listens to executive orders, which are not legislation. They're not legislation, folks. They're not laws. They're executive orders. They mean nothing. They're edicts that mean nothing according to the laws of the land. Yet they will be upheld. They will be, because we live in that society of experts, right? Of God kings. And it's wholly, wholly wrong and evil. Let's see the chat here. It says, Dahari said the prosecution is winning the case for the defense in Kyle Rittenhouse case. Yes, of sorts, sure. But I basically spent the whole last 2 weeks doing nothing but watching that case. I started off watching on Neo Unrealist channel, which, by the way, folks, if you don't know Neo Unrealist, go subscribe to him. He's a smaller channel, but he does good content. But I started watching him, and I was like, I didn't want the commentary. So then I started watching Law and Crime, just a straight stream. And then on Tuesday, I started watching Nick Rekieta. And of course, Rekieta's got a huge bump. He got like 60,000 subs this past week, so good for him. You know, grew some of the other law tubers channels as well. So good for all of them. But we still don't know how the jury is going to act. And a mistrial would be ideal here. We'll get into the Rittenhouse case here in a little bit later. But I don't know that a mistrial would be ideal in some manners, because it seems to be something they can get. But I don't know how that's going to look in the court of public opinion. So it's one of those things, right, where the public is so insane, so lost in the sauce, in the facts, right, in the weeds of things, they don't know what's going on. And that brings me to this gentleman here, Richard in Ojeda. Now, this gentleman is a retired Army veteran. He was a major in the Army, so he's in for a couple years. Former West Virginia senator, national spokesperson for No Dim Left Behind. That is an Act Blue organization. Act Blue being the big fundraising organization for the Democrats. Now, again, for those of you who might be new here, I am an independent. I consider myself a classical liberal, a philosophical libertarian, but more importantly, more than anything, Christianity is where I get my locus of control, if you would, my ethics and how I perceive the world and what I believe God wants for us. And I believe God wants men to be free. And there's a very strong through line here you will catch if you watch my show regularly. But this gentleman here has probably some of the most awful takes you could possibly see on some of these things. Now, I'm just going to scroll through his Twitter real quick. Right here. Michael Flynn is a traitor. I wiped my butt with his DD-214. He should be in prison. He helped launch a coup that should be dealt with correctly. There was no coup, first off. And what the hell? Like this guy, man, the stuff that he's been putting up. Yeah, I don't care about your trip to Berlin. Let's see. If the Oklahoma Guard doesn't want to follow the guidance from above, then cut them off. Fred Wellman is absolutely correct. So I don't know what this is about necessarily, but it says no military schools for Oklahoma Guard, no federal funds for maintenance, training, full-time personnel, or anything else. Oklahoma wants to be in charge. Pay for it yourself. Good luck. So this, I would assume, is saying that federal funds shouldn't go to states that are red because, well, the blue team, they run things right now. Trump continues pushing this garbage that the vote was fraudulent. Why doesn't the media call him out to his face? Show the proof. He says it was fraudulent, but has no proof whatsoever. Recounts have only proven Biden got more votes. I don't think that's what Arizona showed. But hey, whatever. And you got coronavirus stuff. And he posted some stuff about Rittenhouse that was pretty gross and not true. Right here. I would like to say worst judge ever. But due to elections, there are plenty across America that wield power they really shouldn't have. You mean the judge that was defending the Constitution? Now, Mr. Richard Ojeda, I believe, is trying to run for Congress or potentially Senate here in West Virginia. He's got a lot of takes on Manchin. I'm no fan of Manchin, but he has a lot of takes on Manchin about basically how he doesn't fall in line with the progressive nonsense. Now, I know what a person like this is. This person is an elitist. This person is a fart sniffer. This guy thinks that he don't stink. He does everything right. By the way, he's very much into the school unions. He's one of the people that got teachers raises in West Virginia, which maybe they needed. I don't know, but I don't think most of the teachers in West Virginia were being underpaid. They had pretty good salaries compared to Virginia counties and all that, and the Maryland counties we're surrounded by that are all very rural. This is the kind of person that most likely does not approve of school choice because how dare you educate your own children? The government must do so for you. He put a thing up about the judge because he said something about Asian food, which was great because Ricada called that immediately, that the left would flip out about that. And of course, the proud to be an American on his cell phone. What is wrong with having that on your cell phone? These people hate what the United States stands for. And they want us to become a nation of communists. They want us to become a nation of libertine folk, people who basically are enslaved by the government, who can do whatever they want with no consequence, as long as they have the proper political beliefs. They don't want freedom. He says, look up abusive relationship and gaslighting, then view how the MSM treats us. Yes. Dahari says, West Virginia is a great place to homestead off-gridding, if you will. Yeah, and that's what once my wife and I get all of our, financial things in the proper place, we'll probably be doing that. I actually helped old Architect of Fate. You guys might recognize the name in the chat. I helped him look at a house. He has an offer in a house in a county a little bit south of me here. So took pictures for him toward it. So, I'm all about having liberty-minded people come here. And I'm going to try to talk to some folks about that. I talked to Michael Heiss a few weeks back. Sent him another message the other day, but he didn't respond to me yet. But he said he would come on the show. And if you guys don't know, he's pretty much Michael Heiss is a gentleman who's kind of deep in the Mises caucus of the Libertarian Party. See, NBC's spin is Rittenhouse provoked the people that attacked them, so they replace Trigger's. Trigger is provoked, which makes it legitimate. Yeah, let's just talk about that real quick. Get it out of the way. I have a couple things I want to talk about today, guys, but I haven't streamed in a long time, so it's going to be kind of, a grab bag, if you would. And in fact, Sundays are going to be kind of like that. We're going to talk about news in the week, and I plan on streaming every Sunday at 3 p.m. for probably an hour or two. Today, I might not stream as long as other Sundays, but I want to get back in the habit. And then during the week, I'm looking at probably a little bit later time than I was, maybe 4 p.m. On Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Of course, you guys know I have the Ins Justify the Memes. Otherwise, I'm, again, being very busy with my daughter. She's not even 5 months yet and already starting to crawl. So it's one of those things. So in any case, the idea though during the week is I'll probably only stream for an hour, and I'm going to focus on very specific topics like I have before in the past, and kind of make little series until I'm done with a certain thing. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about anti-militarism in the Christian tradition. That is the origins of Christianity and their anti-militaristic and pacifistic perspectives. Something that the modern church has completely forgotten and completely denied, because in the 5th century, they allowed it. Well, I'm sorry, the 5th century was a long time after Christ lived, 500 years, in fact. And, or 400 and some odd, right? 490 or something. So let's understand that things do change. I don't try to make genetic arguments here. I'm saying that people who claim to be Christians today often are believing in something that is not what was taught in the early church. And even folks that I've had conversations with who are Orthodox or Catholics, when they talk about the early church, they always go back to the 4th and 5th and 6th century, neglecting that there was, 300 years before that educated us in a ton of writings. In fact, sometime in the future, probably in my old age, I will sit down and read every ounce of them because, man, there's a lot to read. Let's see. I got some, do I have any over here? Now, I'm about to say, I did have some around. They used to be sitting over here, but I guess I've moved stuff around in the last couple of weeks. So in any case, let's do this. From Darth Crypto, Def Not Darth. New analysis image purported to be Rittenhouse aiming his rifle is a single frame still algorithmically introduced artifacts and pixelation aside. The image is simply not showing what the DA claims it does. Kyle is not lefty. Kyle support hand exists prior to this entry. Now, mind you, this is the big thing that the prosecution is trying to say is provocation and therefore mitigates Kyle's claim to self-defense. I don't think the jury will buy it, but you never know. We hope if the jury does give a guilty verdict that the judge will either give a directed verdict or a mistrial or something of the sorts. But again, that's not going to look the best in the public eye with the lefties versus just a true jury acquitting them. So let's watch this real quick. Make sure I have volume.
So I wanted to do a quick analysis of the video in addition to what I had done earlier. I showed what the prosecution was going to be getting at. I saw it in advance, did a little analysis, and I was able to show you. Now we actually have the prosecution's exhibit in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. So this is the exhibit where they...
So apparently Kyle is aiming at someone here. I can kind of see where they believe that with this image. It does sort of look like he's up like this. But you can't tell, can you? And notice this is the unenhanced image. This is, I believe, the enhanced image. I don't think I have that backwards because you can see there's extra detail in here, right? You can see things on the sign. But it makes no sense because Kyle's not a lefty. So let's hear what else he has to say.
Claim it shows he's aiming the rifle at the Kaminsky's. Right here, you can see him standing there. This is the edited version, the enhanced version. The one on the right is the original, more pixelated. You can see some area.
Okay, so I had that backwards. The one on the left is the version. But again, when did Kyle become a lefty is the argument.
Of distortion, big differences. If you look at the big white sign up at the top, it's a lot different when you see the version on the left, as are some other artifacts. So there are a lot of artifacts being introduced. But what you'll notice about this, and this is very important, a couple things. One, they're saying this is the head. This would be Kyle's elbow bent. This black line right there is the rifle. This over here, right, would be the support hand. Again, you see this white, blurry blub right there. That would be his support hand. That's what they're claiming. So they're suggesting that that's him holding up the rifle. Number one, this would be him holding it lefty. If that's his arm and his elbow bent, he's holding it lefty. And in every single photo, Kyle Rittenhouse holds his rifle righty. He's never been seen in any of the hours and hours of video footage holding his rifle lefty. Now, this is a lightened version of the video, which I did an analysis on earlier, and there's something else that's very important that you're going to want to notice here. You see him run up, drop the fire extinguisher. Runs up, drops the fire extinguisher. I did this in my earlier video, so check that out if you want more detail. Then, when he lifts up his arm right here, this is where they say that's him aiming the rifle. However, do you remember right here how it showed his elbow bent and his support hand up front? Take a look at something. Why, as he's running up and drops the fire extinguisher, let me grab another screenshot and show you. Why is his support hand already there holding up the rifle? That's part of the vehicle. That is not his support hand. That is not Kyle holding up the front of the rifle, as it would appear in this, as it would appear in this. This white dot is part of the vehicle and is not Kyle's support hand, and it is not him holding up the rifle.
So we can only hope that the defense is is aware of the existence of something like this and will show it and evidence. I don't know how they would get this admitted per se, but they will make an argument against it and they will show pictures frame by frame. Now, the bottom line here is that the defense has barely objected. The defense has been quite bad. Sarah Feecy's been pretty good, but Richard's not so much. And Kyle might be spending some time in jail because he might get convicted before an appeal goes through, and the appeals take a long time. But if he does get convicted, folks, this is a horrible precedent. Now, I'm not concerned here in West Virginia because if someone comes on my property and I shoot them, I'm pretty sure the sheriff's going to drop it. We don't have these left-wing DAs out here per se, but I just showed you Mr. Ojeda, and they do exist. It was quite funny that someone told him on his his Twitter that he said, "We don't want you in West Virginia, commie." So that was pretty good. But the amount of lefty Twitter that didn't know the victims were white, lots of red pills. Yes, I did see that. I will have some of that on the Insta for the memes Wednesday, I believe. And it is, I would say, unbelievable. But once you have your head around these things and you understand how these things actually work, you know that leftists all live in bubbles. Like, I don't live in a bubble. I know I don't live in a bubble because despite talking to people normally, I disagree with them. I not only disagree with them, but I watch a large variety of things. There's been studies on this that people who are moderates or independents and right leaning tend to look at a large variety of opinions and perspectives. Lefties only echo what their emotional, narcissistic selves wish to hear. It's self-indulgence of virtue. It is part of the dark triad characteristics. And honestly, folks, this isn't just lefties. People on the right do this too. People in any political persuasion can do this. This is human nature. But it is hard to confront the truth. When I say things like I am not an ideologue, it's because my highest value is truth. I cannot be an ideologue if I'm constantly confronting the truth, because the minute it conflicts, that is the truth, with my perspective of the world, I must change my perspective of the world. Ideologues don't do that. They always make an excuse of why what they believe is true. And 95% of the time, it's circular logic, meaning the reasoning just comes back around on itself to bolster itself. It's the idea that everyone is racist because they're white, and therefore they must be racist because they have power. It's like you can't defeat any of that. And black people who are racist towards white people can't be racist because they don't have any power. Now, that doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what they believe. And it's just a nice little package. Or feminists, right? Feminists go, you're talking down to me because I'm a woman. Therefore, you're wrong, and you're only doing this because I'm a woman. Well, that's a nice little way to protect yourself, right? To self-indulge in your belief. Every time I'm wrong, someone tells me I'm wrong, they're just being a sexist bigot. Perhaps you are a narcissistic fool and you're wrong. It's okay to be wrong, folks. I would love to be wrong 1,000 times a day if I learned something and gained wisdom from it. But, in my heart, I'm a philosopher. I seek and want wisdom. Still doing things that I used to do, apparently. Take myself out of the stream. Dahari says he made a bad joke attempting to link the Chinese food to the ships waiting out there, chance to get into port. Yeah, but who cares? It's like these people look for things to be mad about, right? They want to be mad about, outraged about everything in life. It's terrible. How can you live this way? Where is your joy? Dahari, don't worry about typos, man. You know I can't spell. Try to have me spell anything. I mean, I can spell through rote because I had to learn how to read and write that way more or less. But I'm constantly looking up how to spell things, though. The dictionary back when I was a teen, before the interwebs was ubiquitous and easy to use and not slow, or was slow, not fast like it is today. There weren't smartphones around, all that good stuff. Yeah, the dictionary is like my best friend. Looking stuff up in there all the time. Let's see. It's believable and nice to see the waking up. Yeah. Cognitive bias. We all have it. Socratic question will help figure it out. Holly, if you want, I'm not going to have any guests on the day, but if you want, you're not busy. You can come on stream if you like. I can get you a link. You just let me know if you feel like doing that. If not, no biggie. All right, you guys are just talking amongst each other. Okay, so there were a few things that I wanted to talk about. Nothing over on entropy. All right. So one of them is going to be, just environmentalism in general, because there's been more and more push for environmentalism. And of course, this is all part, just like coronavirus, this is all part to fool people into bringing in a global order. Now, I don't know if I can talk about this stuff. This might have been the reason why I got yeeted before. See, this over here are my strikes. I had to wait out one because I had two. This video all around the world, you can find on Rumble. It is still there. But I submitted an appeal to this other strike, which expires December 9th. And they've never reviewed my appeal. In my last video that I was waiting out so I could come back, that video was approved after they struck it. I appealed it, they approved it, and then they struck it 4 days later. So this is the stuff that YouTube does, and they don't want me talking about certain things. And the last one I got, Everything Has a Cost, was about the things that we're not looking at and talking about environmentalism and the cost to that, and the manner of things in which they want to go about correcting the Earth's, the Earth's dying ecosystem, which one is a lie. It's 100% a lie. I just drove up and down the East Coast, a few weeks back, all over the place. My wife and I drove like 5 hours almost every day for 4 or 5 days straight. And it's just an outright lie. There's so much land and so much mass that's undeveloped, and there's so much space. And then if you go back, like some time ago, I did a video on the fires that were going on in California and all the propaganda with that. And I talked about the global warming issue with that, because there is no, folks, you're being told nonsense. There is no universal rise in temperatures. And where the temperatures are rising the most, believe it or not, are in cities. It's almost like if you had half a brain, you could have figured that out, that there's a collection and a mass of people and a bunch of concrete and all, and that heat's going to be retained there. But I go through the satellite imagery of the global temperatures, and they're not uniform. That's all a lie. But in any case, regardless, we do have Man Bear Pig. So hopefully I won't get yeeted for playing this, but we're going to play it.
Man Bear Pig.
Man Bear Pig?
It is a creature which roams the earth alone. It is half man, half bear, and half pig.
Let me restart this because I don't know why that thing's cycling in there.
Man Bear Pig.
Man Bear Pig?
It is a creature which roams the earth alone. It is half man, half bear, and half pig.
Al Gore has a new man-bear pig to unleash upon planet Earth.
Some people say that man-bear-pig isn't real. Well, I'm here to tell you now, man-bear-pig is very real, and he most certainly exists.
The same United Nations tool who predicted at the 2009 United Nations Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen that the world would have been underwater by 2016.
Some of the models suggest to Dr. Maslowski that there is a 75% chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during some of the summer months could be completely ice-free within the next 5 to 7 years.
Guys, when you listen to an expert, one of the things you should understand is that when they make predictions and they're wrong, they're not experts. Like, you should at least be close, right? This man, Al Gore, our former vice president, who, by the way, there was a recent study released. This video might talk about it. I don't recall, that suggests that the people who have the highest global emissions in the world are people like Al Gore and the rest of the elites who preach against these things. Not Greta, though. Greta, she takes a sailboat.
Al Gore now has a solution to fight climate change that is just as pig-headed and doomed to fail as his inconvenient truth.
Sun's radiation comes in the form of light waves, and that heats up the Earth. And then what that does is it thickens this layer of atmosphere. More of the outgoing infrared is trapped.
From the domain of private jets and super yachts gathering from the recent United Nations Climate Change Conference, Al Gore touted his latest solution to curb carbon emissions, utilizing mass surveillance via satellite sensors and artificial intelligence.
We are entering an era of radical transparency. We are now seeing more and more satellites and ground, sea, and air-based sensors, internet data streams, crowdsourced information gathering, and Climate Trace, an organization that I have helped co-found, is now using artificial intelligence to fuse together all of these data streams to develop extremely accurate and precise algorithms that can affix responsibility for every significant greenhouse gas source of emissions on our planet. We have access to a complete picture of the entire Earth's surface every day, and soon we will have a complete picture of every square centimeter of the Earth's surface every 6 hours. And we're compiling a comprehensive list of those who are responsible for each of the entities that are emitting greenhouse gases, not to be the climate police, but to be the neighborhood watch, except the neighborhood is the globe, and we are all in this together. The Lancet Commission has now told us that we could, if we do not act, expect to see 1 billion climate refugees migrating across borders. We cannot allow this.
That's a nice little 1 billion climate refugees from what? Where? What area? You mean undeveloped countries? This is part of the UN's goals. They want those people moved out of those. They want to depopulate them. The reason why is because, well, they're not developed. They're not developed. They don't have strong infrastructure. Why do you think Africa doesn't have strong infrastructure? They don't care about developing its infrastructure. They only care about the resources there. And the goals generally, same with like the Middle East and elsewhere, right? Certain parts of South America or Central America, the goals are to get as many people into the Northern Hemisphere and to the industrialized areas and to depopulate the Southern Hemisphere, because there are lower levels of population in general and mass greenage, right? So there's a lot of wildlife, and they continually push faulty ideas about this. And now they're going to say, just like Joe Biden said about Mexicans coming to America, or whatever they were doing, whoever it wasn't necessarily Mexicans, other South Americans and Africans coming through the Mexican border, the Mexican U.S. border. That is, those people were coming because of climate change. That narrative switches on a dime, folks. And you should not be surprised, because again, the two narratives that they are pushing, and there will be a third narrative coming at some point. And it's going to be aliens, I promise you. But we have to join together in a global world because the aliens are a threat, and all human beings, we are brothers and sisters. And I don't even deny that. In fact, through Christ, we certainly are. But it doesn't mean that, look, I have a sister. She lives her life very differently than I live mine. I don't want to live my life exactly the same as everyone else. And the authoritarians want you to not help other people be brought up to your level. That's too hard. They want to bring you down to those other people's level of poverty. That also gives them an exemplar amount of control over society.
This wave of authoritarian populism to spread around our world. This sustainability revolution has the magnitude of the Industrial Revolution and the speed of the digital revolution.
But per usual, the man bear pig hunter didn't think this one out. As Zero Hedge points out, what Gore and his 300 satellites will find is that it is the elite super rich luxury class who are the world's largest polluters. New research by the Institute for European Environmental Policy and the Stockholm Environment Institute has found that by 2030, the carbon footprints of the wealthiest 1% of humanity are on track to be 30 times larger than the size compatible with limiting global warming by 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, the Paris Agreement's more ambitious temperature target. The report notes that should current trends continue, the richest 1% will account for 16% of global CO2 emissions in 2030.
Back that up there. 16%. And then we have China and India and all that stuff, right? But the US is down here, but still 16% just from the elites. But they're allowed to, because they're allowed to sin, because they're the priest class. They get to sin and grant you clemency. That's what they do.
What is that, a pig bear man?
No, stupid. It's man bear pig.
Nobody will listen to me about cereal!
Do you want me to get the ex-vice president out of here? Nah, I feel kind of bad for him. I don't think he has any friends.
We can all thank the man bear pig hunter for targeting the true source of climate change, himself, and his so-called friends. John Brown reported.
And, I love me some South Park, but Matt and Trey made a man bear pig rebuttal later on, a few seasons ago, that basically acknowledges that climate change is anthropomorphic or man-made. And I don't think so. But I would say if there was, aside from the climate's natural cycles, this isn't detrimental to us. More CO2 is 100% beneficial. And if you don't believe that, it's because you don't understand how these things work. And it only takes you a little bit of time to do some research, folks, on basic science stuff that's not propagandized, it's not agenda. So we live in basically a closed system here on the earth, and the earth recycles water and air and carbon and all that kind of stuff. These people believe that the carbon must stay in the ground. If there was more carbon in the atmosphere, I talk about this every time I talk about this, then there would be more plant life, more greenery. there would be more oxygen because there would be more plant life. There would be greater oxygen density, which means people would actually probably be healthier. It means they would grow slightly larger, generally speaking, like in the past, and they would have a higher count of oxygen in their blood, which would give them energy, because that's how we get energy, folks. I mean, obviously we use food, but aerobic respiration is what gives you the majority of your energy while you're, just doing whatever, making YouTube videos, right? So let's see here. What else I got? There's something that came to mind that while we were watching that, but maybe I'll figure it out and look it up here in a second, because I know it'll probably come back to me. See what you guys are saying here in the chat real quick. Yeah. 450K. Yeah. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? That would be, if I got that. I mean, it almost makes me want to come up to Canada and see if they'll give it to me, Holly. If I got that, I would be probably set for life, because I would be able to get everything that I need to get a little bit of land and start and build, be completely self-sustainable. Doctors are diagnosing climate change as health issues. Yes. Or go to Mexico for a day and turn around and trek across the desert. The video is echoey. It might be coming through my mic, Holly. I don't know. All right, let me go over. Don't have any. Entropy says I got 2 watching, but I don't see anybody in the chat. No biggie. So, guys, some of the things, like I said, climate is part of this. The coronavirus is part of this. The idea, again, is that we're a global community. Now, we have people that view our show all around the world, that view my show, that is. Holly's in Canada. We have our friend Sam Nope. He's not here today, but he's out in Spain. We have people all over the place. And that's fine. I'm all about communicating with people in other nations, but I'm not about to tell you how you should live and say, no, I know what's best for you. No, I know what wisdom is. I know what, science is, like I said, philosophy before, the truth, those things. I know that if you live a certain way, that it probably will be better for you, but there are always certain little exceptions. I'm not going to try to dictate to anyone how they should live. I can merely have a conversation and suggest it. The only way that I can fight wars is with my words, I can pray, but there is no compulsion from me in what you do in your life, because I don't believe I have the right to do such a thing. You are a free man. You were born free, or woman, whatever, and you will die in such a manner. Now, if you choose to keep yourself enslaved, if you choose to worship other people, if you choose to worship the state, if you choose to worship ideologies, science, whatever else, that's your choice. But I can tell you right now, all those things, doing so is evil, and you are obfuscating your personal responsibilities and your potential in life, because you're following these people blindly like lost sheep. So I want to talk a little bit, probably till I get out of here, whenever that will be, about some based Christians. Now, this lady is a Catholic nun, I believe. I am neither Catholic nor Orthodox, although I do have Orthodox beliefs, and we can put it that way, but not the official Orthodox Church. But my biggest thing with Catholics, of course, I don't care about individual Catholics. We have our friend Shelley, who watches regularly. She's a Catholic. Nothing against Catholics. I have a problem with the papacy because I think the papacy is an evil institution of men, and it's an institution that replaces God on earth with a man. That's blasphemous. But let's hear what this lady has to say about some of these little issues we've just been talking about. This is specifically about the COOF, folks.
This is diabolical, beloved. It's just 100% diabolical. It is your fault. You have no right before God turning your children over to a school system, to an evil government. You have no right. You have no right to do that. God has given you those children to raise for the kingdom. And the only right you have is to live the vocation that God has had you, given you, and not turn them over to an evil world. If the schools ruin them, is it your fault? Yes. Because you have no right turning your children over to anyone, especially to evil. I don't know what evil has blanketed the minds of otherwise thinking people. I don't know if they're getting millions of dollars to do this. I don't know what their reward is. They're ignoring all that. Why? Why? Because they're out to kill. They're out to destroy the human race. That's why. How they buy into it, I don't know. How shepherds of our church buy into it, I don't know.
I know.
And all sorts
she should, but
buy into
don't know why she doesn't.
I'm clueless. I'm clueless. They have as much information as you and I have. They can read the news reports. It's an insanity, and it is designed to destroy us. We have no business doing this to little children, stating that subjecting children is unethical, and I don't know how to say it more strongly, read it more strongly. If you choose to take it or you choose to give it to your children, you are participating in evil that you think good will come. It will not. Death will come. We'll be right back after the break.
Pretty based, huh? I remembered what I wanted to pull up earlier, guys. And that would be this, Lucas Trust. Now, if you guys aren't aware of who or what Lucas Trust is, this is the UN's religious sect. 100%. That's what it is. Goodwill is love in action. World goodwill. Goodwill is one of the most basic spiritual qualities of the human being and the great untapped resource at the heart of every community. This energy is potentially a powerful force for social change, yet its power remains largely unrecognized and underutilized. World goodwill fosters understanding and energy in the role, and it plays in development and humanity, yada, yada, yada. World goodwill at UN. This is the spiritual side of the UN, folks. It exists. They are an occultist organization. So what I'm going to bring in real quick is what Lucas Trust is, because that's what that website was. Now, let me get this bigly enough. What was that? How did I switch out of that? Here we go. Is this something where Wiki's just redirecting me? Okay. Sorry about that, guys. The Lucas Trust is a nonprofit service organization incorporated in the United States in 1922 by Alice Bailey. That is Alice A. Bailey. We'll get to her in a minute. And her husband, Foster Bailey, to act as a fiduciary trust for the publishing of 24 books of esoteric philosophy published under Alice Bailey's name, and to fund the administrator's activities concerned with the establishment of human relations. These include the Arcane School, a school for esoteric training, goodwill, triangles. By the way, folks, that triangle, very important, means as above, so below. It's a reflection. It also is a triangle at the top of it. The idea is that you have ascended into godhood. The ziggurats of ancient Babylon, which is probably what the Tower of Babel was, were the highest point in which the God King could sit down and look upon the masses. That's what these things mean. That's what that reverse seal on the back of your dollar bill is about. The all-seeing eye is the gnosis, the Gnostic belief in God and the ability to see all things. But I'm not going to go too far into occult symbolism. Just wanted to bring it up there. The Beacon magazine, as well as publishing company, the objectives of Lucas Trust, as stated in its charter, are to encourage the study of comparative religion, philosophy, science, and art, to encourage every line of thought, tending to the broadening of human sympathies and interests, and the expansion of ethical, religious, and educational literature, to assist or to engage in activities for the relief of suffering, of human betterment, and in general, to further worthy efforts for humanitarian educational goals. Sounds tremendous, doesn't it? Sounds great. But, you know, people say things, they use pretty words, and they have dubious intentions. The Lucas Trust Publishing Company was founded in the early 1920s as the Lucifer Publishing Company. Now, Lucifer is the light bearer, but these are occultists, these are Gnostics. They believe that Lucifer is actually the title of an angel that gave man knowledge. He's basically Prometheus. The name has been attributed to Bailey's study of theosophical teachings that Lucifer, the archangel, brought intelligence to mankind. So, we'll get to theosophy in a minute. In 1925, they changed it to Lucas Publishing Company because, you know, the name wasn't too well received. So, let's see if I have a lot of other things here, but Miss H.P. Blavatsky, let's go to theosophy first. That's what I keep doing. I keep clicking on that. Aha. Theosophy is a religion established in the United States during the late 19th century. It was founded primarily by Russian immigrant Helena Blavatsky. Helena Petrova Blavatsky is her full name, and normally referred to as H.P. Blavatsky, and draws its teachings predominantly from Blavatsky's writings, categorized by scholars of religion as both a new religious movement and as part of the occultist stream of Western esotericism. It draws upon both older European philosophies such as Neoplatonism. Neoplatonism is what got Christians in trouble in the 4th century, by the way, folks, along with Stoicism. Those will be the things I'll be talking on Friday till I get done all of that, which is going to take a while. Because you got to go through history properly to understand how these things work. So it's going to take me a while, and I got to lay out a case for what Stoicism is and compare it to Christianity, juxtapose them, and stress the similarities on the surface of the philosophy. But it's not the surface that's important. Neoplatonism and Asian religions such as Hinduism and Buddhism. Presented by Blavatsky, theosophy teaches that there is an ancient and secretive brotherhood of spiritual adepts known as the Masters, who, although found across the world, are centered in Tibet. These Masters are alleged by Blavatsky to have cultivated great wisdom and supernatural powers. The theosophists believe that it was they who initiated the modern theosophical movement through disseminating their teachings via Blavatsky. They believe that these masters are attempting to revive knowledge of an ancient religion once found across the world, and which will again come to eclipse the existing world religions. This is in part why they have to go so hard constantly against Christianity. It must be destroyed. It is evil in their minds, and theosophy is their religion. This is the religion of the UN folks. Theosophy preaches the existence of a singular divine absolute. It promotes the emanations, emanationist cosmology, and that says it is an idea of cosmology or cosmogony of certain religious or philosophical systems. Emanation from the Latin emanare, meaning to flow from or to pour forth out of. All right. In which the universe is perceived as outward reflections from the absolute, as above, so below. That's what that's talking about there, folks. And I'm not going to, I address these things, but I'm not going to make this channel about occultism. I'll get into it here and there and all of that, but there are plenty of other people who have written and talked about it for a long time. It's not going to be my focus here, but I do like to cover these things to some degree. Theosophy teaches that the purpose of the human life is spiritual emancipation and claims that the human soul undergoes reincarnation upon bodily death according to the process of karma. So in part, it's just Hinduism, right? Theosophy was established in New York City in 1875, right? And it goes on. Blavatsky describes her ideas in two books, Isis Unveiled and The Secret Doctrine. Isis Unveiled is the lesser known or the lesser used. The Secret Doctrine is the primarily known doctrine or known writing by most people. And, the Secret that was real popular some years ago, if you believe it, you'll achieve it. If I just believe in my mind, I'll have $1 million. It'll just pop in my hand all of a sudden. That's what this comes from. So that's where it comes from. She sought to produce purportedly supernatural phenomenon to support her claims regarding the masters, although it was repeatedly accused of fraudulently doing so. Yada, yada, yada. Theosophy played a significant role in bringing knowledge of Southern Asian religions to Western countries as a result of encouraging cultural pride. This is why during the 70s, you had all these late 60s, early 70s, you had all these people, New Age folks going to India. This is part of the expanse of the expansion of the yoga movement. And I don't think yoga, I don't have anything wrong with yoga itself. Now, there is parts of yoga like, Kundalini practice, which are dubious. But again, not going to get into all that. So, and that's what it says right here, actually. Theosophical ideas have also exerted an influence on a wide range of other esoteric movements and philosophies among the anthrophilosophy. Rudolf Steiner postulates the existence of an objective, intellectually comprehensive spiritual world. Never heard of this before, but hey, I'm going to bring it up in another tab because I want to look into it, want to know. The Church of Universal and Triumph and the New Age. Okay. So, again, we can keep going through all that, but I don't think I need to really. But then the last thing I wanted to address with this was Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller was instrumental in working with the UN and theosophy and all these things, and wanted a global education system and was a very active environmentalist. Now, if you are worshiping some sort of pagan esoteric religion that worships nature, like Hinduism does to a certain degree, then environmentalism, the way that we see it today, the lefties see it at least, is going to be right up in there with these things. Now, I'll talk about some of the stuff on a later occasion. I actually wanted to get back to another very, very based Christian, Archbishop Vigano. And he wrote this message recently about mandates and all these other things. Holly says that's quite the word. I'm not sure which word I said because there were a couple of them there. I'm gonna get used to reading aloud again because I read much more smoothly if I don't have to speak it, and I can read pretty fast if I don't have to talk. But dyslexia makes it hard when I have to read aloud. So this was printed in Catholic Family News, and it said, "Editor's note: Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano has provided Catholic Faith News the text of a message he has delivered to a protest today in Switzerland against the health dictatorship." In Switzerland, of all places, but Switzerland's kind of getting a little bit twisted here lately, I feel like. It seems to be because of their banking laws and whatever else. It seems to be becoming the seat of globalist power. Of course, we all know Davos is there in the World Economic Forum. The Archbishop acts like the great popes and prelates of old and speaking to the group of protesters who are likely not Catholic. He condemns them or commends them for their opposition to the pandemic tyranny, but he also challenges them. He does not ignore root causes that are deeper than seeking freedom for its own sake. He warns the crowd, because of what you want is only to be free to do what you want. Your demonstration makes no sense. And I would agree with that. He speaks as a bishop to those of goodwill, seeking to support them, but also to call them to the higher realities of the Catholic faith. We must seize this moment in which the pandemic tyranny is waking people up. All right, I think I'm going to actually read it from my bigger screen over here. So it says, address of Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, former apostolic Nunico of the United States of America. I don't know all the rankings, and I'm not a Catholic. November 12th, 2021. Dear friends, many of you would never have thought that Switzerland would eventually follow Italy and other nations and supinely adhering to the diktats of the elite, even in the matter of the pandemic emergency. Your confederation, if you guys didn't know, Switzerland is a confederate nation. It's a federalist nation like the United States is. They have individual states that are states, just like the United States. They are countries. And then there is a overarching federal or confederate government. In fact, is already well ahead of other countries on the path of globalization. And the imprint of the New World Order is very marked in the life of the great Swiss cities. And just as Sweden was spared the lockdowns and the mask, one would have believed that also in Switzerland, the measures of supposed containment of the contagion would have adopted the failed model of which Italy is instead a tragic example. On the other hand, since the World Economic Forum has its headquarters in Davos, some of you could have hoped that Klaus Schwab would have prevented you from experiencing firsthand what awaits all of humanity. If we only allow this nonsensical Great Reset to be brought to completion, shared by the UN with the name of Agenda 2030, and yet, if you think about what was shown to you on June 1st, 2016, with the inauguration of the Gotthard Tunnel, you should have an idea about the inspiring principles of the New World Order. And folks, by the way, when we say things like New World Order, we go back, this is an old phrase about getting rid of the old world order, the old world being the kings and queens. Going from the old Christian order as well, and going from European supremacy. Funny, though, how Europe's still leading the call to all this, right? You are here today to protest against the tightening of health and control measures adopted by the Swiss federal government, with the pretext of so-called pandemic. What lies ahead for Switzerland, as you know, has been adopted in whole or in part by other nations, including Italy. Discrimination against the non-vaccinated is already a reality in many nations, as is the tracking of citizens by means of the vaccine passport, salary suspension for those who do not subject themselves to control, and the possibility for public authorities to legislate in the degradation from ordinary laws and from the Constitution. But allow me to ask you some questions. Are you protesting because of a limitation on your constitutional liberties, or because you realize that the first control measures are only the first steps of progressive cancellation of your individual liberty, absorbed by a state doctor that decides for you how to treat you, of a state master that decides if and when you can leave the house, work, go to a restaurant, and travel? Yeah, absolutely. The state wants to dictate every little aspect of your life, and there are psychopaths out there who think that that is okay. And I mean that. They are psychopaths. Controlling other people is not okay, folks. That's why you use violence, by the way. Violence is used for control. It's the only way that that tool is used. I used to, at one point in my life, believe that that tool could be used for good or evil. I no longer believe that because I'm not an ideologue. I read and I became acquainted with the original Christian position, something that had been of great interest to me for a very long time, but I just did not come into it. I did not come across it. And then when I started reading these things, I realized this is why most of my life I saw contradictory things in Christianity, because I wasn't practicing Christianity. I was practicing some sort of modern interpolation of it that wasn't based in its foundation. So fortunately, most of what I believed was right. But a lot of it I had to change. A lot of it. Are you demonstrating against the Green Pass and yet accepting the narrative about the pandemic and the vaccines? Or have you realized that this colossal farce is based on a virus produced in a laboratory that has been spread in order to create an emergency pandemic that will give a pretext for placing all of humanity under control? Have you taken to the streets because it annoys you to have to scan your QR code in order to enter your office or factory, and yet you have been inoculated with the experimental genetic serum? Or have you realized that the so-called vaccines are ineffective? The risk of even grave adverse long and short-term side effects, and that the pharmaceutical houses who are using you as a guinea pig have no responsibility, and that if you get sick or die, they will not have to pay any damages or respond criminally to any court. All of this is true. Now, perhaps you have heard recently that the reports are coming out that it is marijuana that is causing all of the heart attacks in these healthy athletes and young children. This is an absurdity. There is no known, that I'm aware of, medical condition that induces heart attack via marijuana. But perhaps I am wrong. I'm not here to give medical advice. I just have never heard of said thing. So, it seems pretty silly to me. As far as I know, your body has THC receptors in them, and whether you're doing it through vape or smoke or edibles, they attach to the THC receptors that are already there, and then they give you, a certain feeling of euphoria or whatever. Now, maybe the smoke can cause some heart problems over a long period of time, right? Just like smoking cigarettes does. But I don't think that's what's happening now. Since we have this jump in numbers in the last year, right? And finally, have you decided to protest because the freedom to not be subjected to health control is the same freedom in whose name you believe you have the right to kill children in the mother's womb, the elderly, and those who are sick in their hospital beds? Is this the same freedom that would legitimize homosexual unions and gender theory? Is this the freedom to which you appeal? The freedom to offend the law of God, to blaspheme his name? Well, I don't know if that's blasphemy. Well, perhaps. So, folks, blasphemy is a very specific word, has a very specific charge to it. It is claiming to be God. That's what blasphemy is. There is nothing else to blasphemy. It is claiming to be God or to have the abilities of God. This is why when Christ was confronted by the Sanhedrin, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes, he was accused of blasphemy. He was accused of blasphemy because he forgave sins. Only God can forgive sins. This is another problem I have with some of the traditional churches, the Orthodox and the Catholics. There may have been a tradition of doing such a thing, but the Bible specifically says, confess your sins to one another. All who are in Christ are in a priest class. It's one of the unique signifiers of the religious belief that you are. See, a priest is a person who could communicate directly with God. And all in Christ are people who can communicate directly with God because you are adopted into Christ's family, into God's family. There's a marriage, a union of your spirit with God. The freedom to offend the law of God, to blaspheme his name, to violate the natural law that he has written on the hearts of every human being. Because of what you want, if what you want is only to be free, to do what you want, your demonstrations make no sense. It is precisely those who speak to you about gender equality, the right to reproductive health, to euthanasia, to surrogate motherhood, and sexual liberty, who today hold you all in their grip, deciding what is right for you and in the name of your good, public health, or the protection of the planet. It is they who before too long will unite the green pass with your digital ID, your bank account, with your tax, salary, social security, and health status. And in doing so, for your good, they will be able to decide if you can work, travel, go to a restaurant, or buy a steak, or rather some insects. This, my friends, is clearly the mark of the beast, in principle at least. I had to clear my throat there a second. So, in a way, these folks are being blasphemous because they wish to be the gods of your life to control you. So that's fair enough, I would say. And that's exactly the point he's making. That freedom you believe you are free, while those who want to be obedient slaves let you run around by lengthening the leash. Amen. Giving you the illusion of being able to do what you want, of having the right to abort, to live against the precepts of Christian morality, to be able to behave as if God did not exist, as if you would never have to present yourself before God on the day of judgment. Folks, maybe you don't believe in God. I don't know, but you should act like you do. You really should. It'll make you a better person, I promise. But this is not freedom. It is license. It is libertinism. Pretty sure I mentioned that at the beginning of the show. I say it a lot because I understand these things. I understand them by first principles. The freedom to damage your soul, certainly not the freedom to live honestly so as to merit paradise. True freedom is instead the ability to act within the limits of good. And this is the freedom to which you ought to aspire. This, the freedom that you ought to claim with the courage and pride. This is the freedom that will set you free. John 8:32. This is also the same freedom that Paul talks about over and over again in his epistles, especially in Romans. Romans, one of the most misquoted and understood books in the Bible, used for evil people to distort God's plan and view of humanity. Paul says, do not use your license of liberty to sin. And then people go on and have arguments about, legalism versus, I don't have to do anything. Trust me, God expects a lot out of you. He expects you to quit sinning. He expects you to be righteous. He expects you to give charity. He expects you to do all kinds of things. And being a Christian in name only is not a Christian at all. Let me go real quick to Charles Spurgeon here in Self-Delusion. Now, Spurgeon was a Calvinist who I think have every ounce of their beliefs taught to them by satanic people. I'm not saying that Calvinists are. I'm saying the belief of Calvinism. It makes God an evil God who unjustly controls the will of all men. It is a lie from hell. But, I don't hold punches here. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I mean, you're going to tell me that tulip's a real thing. I'm going to tell you, you've lost the pot. There was nobody in the first 3 centuries of Christianity that would have agreed with you. And in fact, they would have told you that you were a Gnostic, the heresy, the largest heresy of the day, aside from the Judaizers. That is men who would tell you you'd have to follow the Jewish law and circumcise yourself. This thing, I'm not going to go through, it's quite long, is a sermon given by Charles Spurgeon. And I believe it's Self-Delusion. There's another one called Self-Examination. They're very similar. They're both very good sermons that he gave. But he goes through and he talks about all the Christians in the Bible by the account of Christ who didn't make it. Like, the 10 virgins. He said, even amongst the apostles of the 12, the closest, the disciples of Christ, Judas betrayed Christ. Think about that, folks. There is warning after warning after warning in your scriptures that talk about how there will be a lot of fake Christians. Christ said specifically in Matthew 7, I believe it's Matthew 7, right? Yeah, he says, many will come to me and say, Lord, didn't I prophesy in your name? Didn't I do this and that in your name? Blah, 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 blah. And he said, get away from me, you worker of lawlessness. I never knew you. Now, a Calvinist will argue with me, well, the lawlessness that he's talking about is not believing, not putting all your trust in Christ. Absurd. Absolutely absurd. There are rules, folks. There are rules. In any case, let's get back to Cardinal Vigano. This probably will be the last thing I cover today before I get out of here. And let me check over an entropy real quick. Yeah, no one over there. Or says I have 2 watching, but no chats. So, what is circular reasoning, Holly? Let's come back to that. Not taking the Lord's name in vain. That is like saying God. So like if I damn somebody, so first off, foul language is actually used in the Bible. Paul uses the Greek equivalent of shit in the scriptures, if I'm not mistaken. But we have to understand about cursing. People believed you could curse another person. In fact, I forgot to talk about it today, but I was thinking about talking about it. I got my first hate mail the other week, which was great. It was fantastic, actually. Maybe I'll cover that here in a minute. I'll find it. And the person cursed me. I hope you have a horrible day. Well, in the Sermon on the Mount, the very beginning, Matthew chapter 5, Christ says, those that curse you and revile you because of my sake, they will hate and curse you and revile you. When they do so, they are blessing you. So I wrote back to him. I told him, you're blessing me by doing such a thing. But in any case, That's an aside. John Cook says, I'm here. I wouldn't worry about it, though. All right. Let's not worry about it. Thanks for showing up. So this is the freedom to choose not to be fooled by the promise of those who offer you a better, eco-sustainable, inclusive, tolerant, resistant, or resilient, and gender-fluid future, while forcing you to buy only the products they have made available on the internet, to order lunch and dinner via delivery, to be treated with telemedicine, to follow lessons via distance learning, and to not go into the office via smart work. Holly said, okay. Oh, you're famous enough to get hate mail? Gotta love that. It means you're getting attention. It was about the we're coming for your children video, which Aiden and I talked about, Aiden Paladin, that is, when I had her on my stream, one of the times. And I feel like we were rather tepid. By the way, folks, I see that my Wi-Fi just kicked on, so sorry if this gets glitchy. Someone must have unplugged my Ethernet, which is easy to do. Let me check the stream real quick, make sure it looks good. So Wi-Fi is not ideal to stream upon, so I might have to finish this up pretty quickly here. I am talking about the freedom to say no to those who, by enslaving progress in the world, or envisaging progress in the world of work, and enthusiastically showing you the free time you will be able to enjoy with reduced work hours, are reducing your salary, eliminating your union protections, depriving you of the means of subsistence for supporting your family, forcing you to live in an ever smaller and more anonymous apartments that are always further in the outskirts of town, to say no to those who first deprive you of the autonomy of your job by creating unemployment and eliminating professional specializations, and then offer you the citizenship income by which to make you slaves, blackmailed by a state that decides on what conditions you can work. The freedom you must claim is that of not supinely accepting the media narrative, the colossal fraud of the entire category, excuse me, folks, subservient to the elite, engaged in spreading lies and censoring the truth, paid to support power and suppress dissent, the freedom to demand that journalists rediscover the dignity of professional ethics and conduct, and not the infamy of the courtly enslavements to masters whom can never get enough power. The freedom of speech that you all should invoke, and above all, these among you who have roles of responsibility to carry out professions related to the present emergency: doctors, pandemics, law enforcement, judges, politicians, and the freedom to expose the corruption, conflicts of interest, silence, and complicity of a system based on deception, fraud, psychological terrorism, and manipulation of the truth. The freedom to refuse one's consent to a crime against humanity being carried out with ruthless determination. We can ask ourselves if, with the victory of this referendum on November 28th, anything will change. The Swiss Constitution favors the active participation of its citizens and will give a strong signal to the Federal Council to dissent from its intentions. But do not think that your battle of fundamental rights ends here. The attack is worldwide, and each of us must be aware of the threat that now hangs over every one of us. This is not the clash in which we can overcome the common enemy with human efforts alone. It is an epical battle in which what is at stake are the destinies of humanity as a whole, as well as each of us individually, both in time and eternity. and above all, the proponents of the Great Reset are intrinsically anti-Christian, anti-Christistic, because this New World Order is nothing other than the infernal chaos. It is the kingdom of Satan, folks. Again, first, second, third century metaphysics, Christian metaphysics, very simple. It is the kingdom of Satan. All things that are of this world are part of the kingdom of Satan. All governments, every single one of them. And I know some Christians out there are going to tell me, but Bill, the Bible says to follow the authorities. No, it says to pray for them, and it says to obey them in as much as it does not violate God's law. That if you were to be beaten by them, it is a credit to you because you've done nothing wrong to be beaten. That's what it says. It says to respect authority, but it does not say to blindly serve it. And there are plenty of examples from the early church. But then, the church married the beast. It married Satan and its kingdoms. Now, God does allow these people to have power in all of these things, but in the end, their goals are the goals of enslavement in the kingdom of Satan. Those of us who believe that we are part of the kingdom of God, we are part of that kingdom because we profess that Christ is our king and that he bonded us out of the slavery of this world into the liberty of righteousness. So again, these are things they're often lost in the modern church. It says you have been given the opportunity to decide not only if the Green Pass is illegitimate, but whether you want to definitively renounce what remains of your freedom, allowing the dystopian nightmare to be imposed on you of a tyranny that today is a health dictatorship and tomorrow will be an ecological or transhuman. And may God assist and protect those who belong to him. Well, amen to that. So that's all I got today, guys. I'm gonna jump out of here, given that. Oh, look, I'm back. I'm back. Not on Wi-Fi anymore. Okay. Well, let's look at some hate mail. Let me get that up, and then I'll get out of here because it shouldn't take me long to get through that. So just give me a second, guys. I got to get into my 1,000,001 email accounts. For some reason, Google signed me out earlier. Got to verify through the phone. It's me. Even though I've had the same computer forever. Let's just go to, here we go. I went to my email. I found that. My response, that is. Well, it's good to see you, Holly. We don't talk anymore. You talk to Sniper more than me now. I feel ashamed. I also haven't been in the chats on Jeremy and Delaney's stream. It's been too late. I've been getting to bed really early with the baby and stuff, which is not typical of me, as you are probably very well aware. So I'm not going to publish this person's email, so I won't do such a thing. Or name unless they put it. But here, dear AllMinusOne, gay men were not saying they're going to come after your kids. Even if that were true, which it isn't, there is no need. Around 10% of the conservative offspring are already LGBT, and most child molesters are straight men who abuse whatever age and gender is available to them. Okay. I don't care if you're gay. I don't. Any more than I care if you're an adulterer or anything else. In fact, I used to be an adulterer myself. Did quite a lot of it. Quite a lot. It's not, I don't hate you because you like to have sex with men. It's not what this is about. It's about optics. And you said that you were going to indoctrinate other people's children. That is wrong. You have no right to that. What the SF Gay Men's Choir was singing is that they will be converting children to be tolerant and kind. I'm very aware what they were singing about. It's still offensive. What if I said I was going to come after you and the gay folk and I was going to convert you to be straight? And I know you're not saying convert, but to be tolerant and all these other things. Guess what I teach my children? Because I don't believe in bigotry. I mean, maybe there's some uses. I definitely have some bigotry about Christianity, but generally I don't believe in being bigoted toward other people. I believe in being kind to even sinners. It's almost like I'm a Christian. I try to be Christ-like. And I fall short on that quite often, actually. I heard this song years before this video went public, and it's pretty sad that you scumbags would take, here we go, it out of context in your perverse argument. I didn't take anything out of context. Tolerance and fairness are virtues that some folks, mostly racist and homophobes like yourselves, find threatening. I'm not homophobic, dude. So I just think that it's not what God wants. In fact, what you want, with the goal of the homosexual agenda, that is, not all homosexuals, guys. I have had them on my show many a times. I don't care. I don't care. But the agenda, those who are making it an agenda, right, is about libertinism. And it is about seducing those who aren't gay. Many of my interactions with gay men are about them trying to seduce me as a straight man. Many of them. And it's overt. So I don't want to hear your nonsense. It's not all of them. Because the people who are gay that are good people, decent people, don't act like that. Tolerance and fairness are virtues that some folks, mostly racist and homophobes like yourself, find threatening. I'm not either one of those things, and I don't find it threatening at all. In fact, I'm a Christian. Christians should be promoting forms of tolerance. But there's a difference when you say you're coming for our children, isn't there? So they're serious about promoting tolerance and acceptance of LGBTQ, but they're joking about how that gets spun into an agenda coming after your children. I understand that. It's still offensive to a lot of people. Not to mention, you're probably a millennial, and so this is just moronic to me because I'm a Gen Xer and nobody cared. Nobody cared the entire time I grew up. Nobody cared. So what you've done is you've made this false thing to seem like a victim for virtue points. And now you're coming after me, making false accusations about who I am. Normalizing queerness for children will increase acceptance, as they'll be taught that it's okay from a young age. Children should not be taught about sexuality, period. People with LGBT children, LGBT adults with kids, and many asexual and cisgender people would also benefit. No, they wouldn't. Your goal is, I literally know gay guys that go after, they only like straight guys, supposedly straight guys, whatever, that go after, will get them drunk so they can have sex with them. So please, don't tell me how there aren't predatory behaviors. Like the homosexual community as a total doesn't have a lot of issues. That there aren't large domestic problems, which there are, especially amongst the ladies. Many LGBT youth knew they were LGBT since before their puberty began. I did. No, you didn't. That's a lie. You did not. You say that now. Very few people know their sexuality when they're young. I was girl crazy my entire life that I can remember, since like kindergarten. Most boys don't like girls then, and most little girls don't necessarily like boys either, because they're not sexual. They're children. So you're a liar. Sorry. Now, of like gay friends that I have, most of them will tell you, yeah, I pretty much knew when I was young or at a certain age, or I tend to like more girls more, but they weren't, again, it wasn't sexual. So I don't believe you. You're just making stuff up. Kids don't think like that. But teaching children about LGBT people isn't just for LGBT kids. It's for straight kids who should learn about the different kinds of people and families that exist. No. See, this is called indoctrination. And you have no right to do this. Why can't you learn? Why can't my children learn about the world, in the world, through the world? Why do I have to tell them about your special club? Why do they have to be indoctrinated into it? And this is all very Marxian too. This is all very socialist. It has to be imposed upon you. I knew since I was very young, many other LGBT knew that they were queer or trans from a very young age. No, they didn't. They lie about that today. By the way, folks, identity crises are pretty much the standard in the West because we don't give our children proper identities, but they're not universal amongst cultures. And our children go through identity crisis as teens because of the awakening of their sexuality. And almost everyone in the West, as an adolescent, as a teen, goes through it. But guess what? Adolescence doesn't exist cross-culturally because other cultures teach their children their roles from the beginning. This is an identity crisis created in the West because people in the West are just walking through life thinking all kinds of crazy stuff. I did. I suffered tremendously because of it. And I mean it. Like, I have PTSD from relationships, specifically my first wife. My first wife, that my daughter that I had with her doesn't even talk to because of the horrible person that she was and the horrible things that she did. And I suffered those things over and over and over again in other relationships because I did not have a proper identity about myself and a proper outlook in the world. And this is what people run into. This is why our society is falling to pieces. LGBT relationships are between consenting parties who knew that they are what they're doing. This is different from rape or pedophilia. I don't know what I said in that video, but I didn't talk about any of that. I can promise you. I'm old enough to remember when public nudity was illegal in San Francisco, and not just at street fairs. Now I think it's all but genitalia for yuppies and their children, but that has nothing to do with children if we choose to express ourselves out in the open, and it's not intended to reduce queer identities to have sex with the same person. Look, go listen to Camille Paglia, you fool, about the fall and breakdown of societies and how ambiguous sexuality becomes, and the word is on the tip of my tongue. The ambiguous nature of our sexualities, right? And how that increases, and how homosexuality becomes increasingly the norm. It's just history, dude. And it has to do with identity. And this was going on before the fall of Rome. Really interesting that before Rome fell, there was a moral belief system that basically spread out throughout the world at the time. The problem is those people in their moral belief system ended up giving power to the centralized authorities of the Romans and whatnot. So, James Charles, exactly. Holly says, and what exactly about calling out the choir is racist? I don't know. These people, when they say these stuff, I'm just like, you believe in a caricature. That's what this person believes. So, and having open nudity and sex and whatever else you're doing out in the street and pride stuff, it's gross. I wouldn't care if it was heterosexual couples. It's gross to have kids walking around that. No, you can be a moral degenerate if you wish, but I will not. My children will not. Not while I raise them. As they're adults, they're accountable to themselves. So that's a whole nother issue. Also, being gay or queer isn't any more about sex than being straight is. Oh, no, it's 100% about sex. It's about who you have sex with. And my problem is that you make it your entire personality. When I say I'm gay, or if other gay men are proactive and public, it isn't intended to reduce queer identities to having sex with the same sex person. Accusing LGBT folk, or whatever the outcasts that they are, of sexualizing children is straight bigot tactic. The only person sexualizing children is you. No. Not when you're dancing naked in the streets and you're trying to tell kids about sexualities. There is no purview in the world that is like, oh, yeah, let's teach kids earlier on about sex and not have sex with them. Pedophilia, by the way, is primarily predicated by gay men. Sorry, I said it. Maybe YouTube will yeet me for that. Sorry. That's the truth. The word pedophilia comes from pedestry, which was the ancient belief that when men had sex with each other, they bonded. And that you would have one master and one young child, generally maybe pubescent by that point, but who knows? I didn't live in ancient days. I don't know everything about it. But yeah, where you had a master who was older, who was with a younger person. And perhaps I could talk about the zombie, since you're an expert being a gay person. I would mention your name, but I'm not trying to dox you, partner. I don't want you to get a bunch of hate mail because I'm not the person you think that in your imagination that I am. But the zombie are a group of South Pacific dwellers, I believe it's South Pacific Island, not mistaken. Wherever it's at, I think it's around New Guinea or something like that, Papua New Guinea. They would separate the men and the children at a very young age, about 5 or 6 years old. And they believed the women to be evil. Mind you, in all societies that become highly homosexual, there has been a huge amount of misogyny. Misogyny isn't a thing of patriarchy. Misogyny is a thing of homosexuality, where you repress women. This is true. We're watching it right now with the trans movement. But so the women were isolated and relegated to do all of the work, while the men would fellate, the young boys would fellate the older boys, the teen boys, because semen gave them power, you see. And these homosexual relationships continued until they became, grown men. And then they had to do weird stuff to get them to have sex with the women because they're so used to having sex with men. So yes, pedestry 100% comes from gay men. Sorry. There's not really a history of lesbian pedestry. There isn't. I'm not on the side of sexualizing children. You're on the side of building a strongman, save the children argument based on nothing but prejudice and homophobia. No, I'm laying out my case right now. There's thousands of years of history of this. There's what you're doing now. Not to mention, dude, I don't know how old you are. I'm not like the oldest guy or whatever, but I'm not the spring chicken that I look like. I'm not some 20-year-old. I'm in my 40s. I've lived a pretty involved life. I've had a lot of crazy stuff in my life happen. I've got a lot of experience. I mean, I've been to war. I worked in a jail a really long time. You know, I literally lived through a hostage situation that was right next door to my house, like 2 weeks after I moved there. That is not a joke. That is true. Yeah, I've had a lot of interesting things happen in my life. For, you know, the nobody that I am. I'm on the side of protecting children from bigots like you. Yeah, so you are a pedo. Okay. Okay, I got it. Here, I got something for that. Pretty sure. Where's that? Here, have some of this.
Left the pedos, 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 pedo. That's all people should hear when they think of left. And there's so many examples of this.
And Carl ain't wrong. And you're not on the side of the children. You just said you want to teach them about sexuality as children. That's gross, dude. I also have a friend whose husband spent 6 months in jail for possession of child pornography and has to now register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. This was almost 9 years ago, and he has not reoffended that you know of, that you're aware of. I've dealt with plenty of pedos, and honestly, I wasn't like a lot of my coworkers who were like they should all be shot and killed. Because that's what the correctional officers think of most of them. Because it is a disgusting crime. You're injuring someone for the rest of their life and their ability to bond with other people. To have a proper marriage or sexual relations with people. I think he's a good person who made a terrible mistake. I don't care. And look, you can repent of sin, man. I'm a Christian. I believe in repentance. I'm a horrible person. I've done horrible things most of my life. Really am. I'm a lot better of a person now, I think. But, you know, even Christ himself said, call no man good here on the earth. For there's only one that's good, and that's the Father in heaven. I mean, hell, I was a trained murderer. I've never acted it out. Never had that opportunity, but Bezmenov, huh? Oh, Shelley, changing the name. Here but driving. Well, Shelley, go back and watch the rest of this. This is actually me trying to close out here, but I forgot I had hate mail. I wanted to talk about it. I feel like being gay was made me a better person because it has made me sympathize with others in society who are viewed as wrong and perverted. Dude, again, I think right now the show I did with Christian Watson, who I didn't even know until he told me on that show, I have on my channel, on the YouTube channel at least, at the beginning as an introductory video. I like Christian a lot. He's a gay man, dude. So what are you talking about? I don't think your sexuality makes you a good person. Your sexuality has nothing to do with that. The reason why God's against it is because it's not natural, because the natural order is that you procreate, because that serves God. Otherwise, you're narcissistically living for yourself. Being gay has made me a better person. He's not a pedophile, someone who is sexually attracted to prepubescent children, either in spite of what many people assume. I don't know why this guy's telling me all this stuff, but he was subdued in their child porn by predators he was interacting with online. Huh? I don't even know. He's making an excuse why this dude his friend is a pedo. Take pride in being a bigot because that's what you are. Yeah, when it comes to Christianity, not really much else, dude. But honestly, everything you just said was bigoted because you don't understand what that word means. It means you're closed-minded. It means you can't listen to exterior opinions. There's no commandment from Christ that tells me to hate gay people, because I don't hate gay people. I don't hate people in general. But I don't agree that that is a lifestyle that's generally healthy for most people. And I think that God said, hey, the natural order of the world is a man and a wife. And I can prove that through simple biology, because you're never going to procreate without a woman partner. You may disagree, but the definition of a bigot is someone who is utterly intolerant of a different belief, creed, or opinion. Utterly intolerant, as in so intolerant that you can't stand to allow marriage between people who you don't even know because you don't deem them acceptable by the definition of marriage. Being gay is natural. Hating gay is a lifestyle choice. I don't hate gays. And you know what? I don't care if gay people get married either. I don't think the state should be involved. I've had that position since at least 2005. Imagine that. I'm consistent on things because I have a metaphysic that I operate by. You enable hate, and I hope one day you don't. Have yourself a horrible day. So, to Gabe, the point of the video was indoctrination, period. This is my response, of course, folks. You act as if I've never interacted with gay folk, never had them on my channel, or don't have them in my life or even my family, which I do. I don't care what you as an adult wish to do with others as long as it doesn't hurt the innocent. Your narcissism has made you blind to your evil. You play victimhood as virtue while having the support of all major institutional powers. You worshiped if you worshiped anything outside yourself and your emotional impulse, you would see this. You can't, though, and I understand, as I too lived in a lost state for most of my life. The kingdom of Satan is the default and majority. I don't teach my children to hate anyone or to be closed-minded, but I do teach them morality. I want them to question everything, because blind beliefs such as you espouse are how we come to live in a society such as today that is a weak society that has no proper identity. The presuppositions you have of me and the world are merely illusions of your ego and the masters that control your materialistic and petty fulfillment. A master you will never be free of without a redirection of mind and course of action. That is repentance, folks, a changing of the mind, a reversal of your course. I did it about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's been 5 years now. Yeah, I did it. I fell to my knees and I gave everything to God. And I'll tell you what, I haven't been living that fully lately. I haven't been living that as much as I'd like. And I know it. And I feel it. And I've been having a lot of soul searching lately because I get off course, guys. I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. Imagine that. A human being is imperfect. Imagine, if you would. Did I make mistakes? Did I do sinful things that I have to repent about, that I have to contemplate on? That sometimes I don't feel like I'm in the scriptures enough, that I don't pray enough. But I know myself. And I know when I'm going awry and off course, and I know that I need to correct it. Because I don't try to suffer from some sort of self-delusion. Question, seek, ask. These are the foundations. But nothing matters without ethics and morality, educating them. My children to learn to treat others as they would like to be treated, to give charity, to take action, because only action matters, not empty words, etc. And folks, I don't care what you say your beliefs are. If you don't act them out, you don't believe them. They learn they are their brother's keeper as family and community calms, then self. I don't expect you to understand any of this. You have a clearly broken moral compass. Your final sentence was a curse that I have a horrible day, a statement of pure self-indulgence for you, but one that heaps blessings upon me and mine. Thank you. Your final sentence will be, my final sentence will be to have a blessed day, and I'll pray Christ will remove the scales from your eyes. Peace, Bill. So that was that. Holly says, this sounds like a feminine voice attacking in a socially constructed way to try and hurt your feelings and justify their actions and beliefs with straw man after straw man. Well, yeah, it didn't hurt my feelings. I mean, that email I sent back was quite short. I actually laughed about it when I saw it. I told my wife, I was like, I got hate mail, which is kind of awesome. That someone would care enough, but they don't care enough. That was complete self-indulgence on their part. And this is the stuff that I'm always talking about. That's why I brought it up. Actually, when I got the show prepared for today, I completely forgot about it. So I'm glad I remembered midstream because I did want to talk about it. But the Hari said he should take pride in being an. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what some people perceive, and it happens all the time. In fact, right before I started the stream, I was on doing a little bit on Twitter, just looking around, and I commented on Lauren Shen's something she put on about Biden, and I think she was just making a joke, and I made a comment, and then someone was like talking about fake Christians or whatever, and talking about if Jesus would return, they would have crucified him again, and blah blah blah, because he would have preached socialism. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize God was cool with coveting other people's things. I was mistaken about that. Anyways, I didn't get into it with him, but I'm just like, yeah, I know. I just told him, I said, look, you're an ideologue. I know what you are. I know what you are. That person called me a bigot, and I can show you my Big Five personality test. I'm in the 98th percentile, folks, of openness. I'm an extremely open person. I have my beliefs, but my beliefs are based in realities. I came to the positions that I came to through logic and reason, through study, through history. I didn't get here because I decided to neglect the truth. The biggest thing that annoys me with modern Christians? It's all about the love, man. And I'm not saying, like, look, I know Paul's statements, his epistle about love and love conquers all and all that stuff. That's great, folks. But the reality is that the early church based itself on logic, not emotion, or just emotion, at least. Why do you think Christ is the logos, the plan, the reason, and the purpose? The logos, the logic of things. And I have debates with my father about this because he'll talk about the emotional side. I'm like, you get emotional about anything, man. I used to get emotional with the women that were the worst. I mean, literally the worst possible women for me. Would be emotional with them because I was addicted to the sexual chemistry. Emotionalism is overrated. Overrated. Now, does that mean that I'm a cold, calculating, unemotional person? No, I'm actually a highly emotional guy. I'm an art. I grew up as an artist, man. I have an artist inclination. I'm, prone to get angry sometimes, and prone to cry when I'm upset or frustrated. Now, I'm not like doing it like a woman per se, but when things build up, I mean, it is what it is. I know who I am. I'm not ashamed of who I am. And you guys can make fun of me for it. I don't care. Make fun away. I'll pick back at you. That's how it goes. Dahari says, hate mail, yeehaw. And to your point here about the feminine sounding voice, well, that is homosexuality. I mean, there are, of course, tops. There was the idea in ancient Rome that basically the top was the was a very masculine position. They didn't see things quite the same as we do today. Supposedly, I'm not completely sure about this, but this is what current scholars say, at least, and that so homosexuality wasn't seen as unmasculine or effeminate. And most of this comes from modern arguments against the words used by Paul of being effeminate in the Greek, because there wasn't really homosexuality in the Bible and the scriptures isn't completely spelled out per se, but it is. And of course, you can always go back to Deuteronomy and go look at what the Jewish law was. I'm not saying we follow the Jewish law. I'm just saying that the Jewish law is a pretext to what Christian laws are. And any good Christian that really understands the faith will tell you that there's actually more rules for Christianity than there are for Jews. There really are. It's a whole big thing I can get into, but I'm not going to. Liberals use the emotion card in their bullying tactics. Tactics, yes. Hey, man, your chats look just like mine. Let me go over here to Entropy. Well, it says I got 2 viewers, but nobody in there. Let me real quick make sure no one's following me on DLive because I haven't had that up. Oh, I got 3 viewers over in DLive, but I don't see anything in the chat. So, well, thanks, guys, for joining me here. So, guys, I'm going to get out of here. You know me, I can run my mouth forever. But I'll be back tomorrow. I should be back at 4 p.m. I know I was doing 3. I think 4 is a better time. Baby stuff, wife's work, all that. But should be back. We're going to talk about this, actually. Let me get it over here. The basis of early Christian anti-militarism. It is about 30 pages. I did, while I was away, I did a pre-recorded version of the first 10 pages. It took about an hour to get through 10 pages. So this should only be like a 3-parter. But I decided not to release it because I just kind of want to do it live. And it was a while because I was thinking about doing pre-recorded stuff and releasing it for a while. And then I was like, nah, I'm just going to focus on other things. Plug your donations links, Bill. Well, thanks, Holly. Well, let's do some grift stuff, right? I don't work. I'm a stay-at-home dad for lots of reasons, but I am trying to support my family to some degree, and I do that right now through streams if you guys donate. Now, I don't make a bunch of money. I don't have enough viewership, but you should support streamers you like. And so one of the ways you can do that is to go over to Entropy. You can send donations there through messages, through chat. Another way is I do have a subscribe star, but Entropy actually has a subscriber option. So, if you guys want to help me and my family, I get it. Times are tough right now. Things are tight. I'm not, I think you should support people, but I'm someone who believes in charity. I mean, it is what it is. So, yeah, I could say, please give me money. And I would also probably, on occasion joke if you guys didn't make any donations. But the reality is I get it. You got to do what you can do. But there is that. I have a subscribe star. Again, there are tiers there. My one subscriber right now, I think over there, doesn't want anything from me. But there are different levels you can subscribe at. And I will make special content for you if you want it. So I tend not to shill my stuff out too much with that. So there's that. Let me think. Oh, and there's a PayPal. Do I have the PayPal? Holly, is my PayPal in the links there? Let me pull up YouTube real quick. I'm gonna have to fix that. I'll fix that after the show. But oh no, it's right up top. Okay, yeah, PayPal me at AllMinusOne. So you guys can do that if you wish. So thank you, Holly, for reminding me to show myself, I guess. Anyways, I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. We're going to talk about Christian anti-militarism. Probably be 3 weeks on that every Monday. Thursday, I'm going to talk about health stuff again, dietary stuff. We'll go through, some papers. I'll try not to let it be too boring, but I mean, it's the nature of this. So, we'll look at some historical stuff and all that. And then Friday, we'll talk about Stoicism and Christianity. So right now, I think goals for the channel for me, obviously, aside from growing, is to do this longer stream every Sunday. I'm gonna have guests on Sunday if I can, and I have some people in mind, and I want to line up. Mondays are going to be whatever random thing I want to change to. Thursdays will be diet and health stuff for a while, and then Fridays will be Stoicism. But look, guys, you have to realize Stoicism and Christianity. You have to realize that we are a triune being, right? Triune being. We are mind or soul, right? That is who we are, our personalities. We are body, as in physical, and we are spirit. And these things screw people up because people think that soul and spirit are the same, and they are not. Your spirit is more like your attitude. It's the best way I can describe it. It is the thing that takes you over in the moment. Like that person that sent me hate mail was in the spirit of being a moron. So they acted like one, at least in my opinion, but whatever. No hate to them. I whatever. A person was venting. I had a bad day. Who knows? But the fact that I offended them is silly because I don't think I made any of the arguments that he said, but I don't know. I haven't rewatched any of my stuff in forever. So Holly says she loves the historical stuff. Well, we'll be doing a lot more of that. But back to the mind or the soul, body, and spirit discussion. These are the reasons why our society is weak as well, because we don't know our own souls. I've talked about this in Jungian psychology terminology before. We're all persona. See, that person was a persona. They were an outward exterior of themselves, not their true selves. And when someone is like that, then they tend to project because they don't have their ego in check. And then they have the only final level, they have the anima and the animus. That is your yin yang of sexuality. And even though you're a man or a woman, you have a dot, an aspect of you that is the feminine or the masculine. Like these are philosophical, perspectives, of course, but I think that they are true. We all have that. We can all be gentle. That is feminism. And we can all be hard. That is masculinism. But when you have your anima and animus in balance, then you will be in tune with your proper sexual nature. And that is with men and women, a proper natural relationship, and also an understanding the world and how you interact with it. So, but again, the persona is what most people are. It's the narcissism. It's the virtue signaling. It's the this is what the people from the top down say I have to be, and that's who I'm going to be. In fact, one of my first videos I did was a video clip that was an animation about this, and I kind of talked through it. So if you go way back to my first videos, it's probably like the second video I have on here. Actually, I could probably just bring it up real quick. Let's bring it up real quick. Videos. We only have like 300 million videos, in the last year. Not quite that. I got a lot for a guy that's only been doing this for a little over a year. Where's she at? Oh, there it is. I got it. Man, look at this guy with short hair. So, yeah. Breakdown of In Shadows. In Shadows is the video, but it explains these kind of concepts I was just talking about. So all these people have these masks on. This is their persona. And of course, they're just partying, being hedonistic, libertine, right? See, they're hugging each other for intimacy, but yet there's no intimacy between them. So there's stuff there, guys. There's this visualism, and this is, of course, the chakras and stuff. This is, being vaccinated, all that. These kids have their heads in a box. They're having their soul sucked from them. It's a very, very great video, piece of art. This is back in the OBS days, man. I didn't make that switch too long ago, though. You see how the media is regurgitating everything, how it's coming from the top down. This is the stuff I'm talking about. The pop star. Let's see what the volume sounds like. Celebrities that are completely empty and vapid, and yet choked by the collars and led along by a leash. The movie director who's clutching on to his award. His hands are tied, his brain is open, and someone is spewing in the back of his mind. This man trying to develop his soul. He's being distracted. And all these people willing to be distracted. Enslaving themselves. Sitting across from each other, able to talk, but connecting through a phone. Playing video games, of course, so you get the kids early. They don't know the realities. Shadow brains, narcissism in the background, evil. We have women who are being capitalistic, which I'm not against capitalism, but materialistic. We have women being putting on makeup at the expense of animals. It's just the fashion world. Behind that persona, broken inside. We have big men on steroids. They're jacked. And then the me culture. Look at me. Look at me. Look at what I did. Look at my stuff. Look at me. This video is quite profound. Let's do this before I get out of here. I got 3 minutes. Who were shattered. Because there should be a link here to the original. It's 13 minutes. Let's watch a couple minutes of this before I get out of here. So, 3 dots, soul, spirit, body, mind, body, soul, however you want to look at it. Same thing, more or less. Square Earth. It's like it's fit into a box, right? And then here we see the great city. The great city everyone wants to attend to. And it's kind of like floating in the clouds there, like it has superiority, right? And because it does. The skyscrapers represent that ancient thing of the ziggurat, the Tower of Babel, the Billionaire Row down in New York, right? And only the powerful and the elite live at the top of this. Those in control. What are they doing? They're doing occult stuff. Worshipping that box that controls you. You notice all these people, their spirits, whatever they have, their souls. It's inside them in their chest and their hearts. It's black and it's, flickering. And see, everyone's crushed by the workday. This is why art's important, guys, because you can convey so much. This is nothing but music and animation. These people, they're upside down, they're standing on their heads, and they're being blown away by the wind, right? Going along with wherever the wind blows them. Hey, put on your persona today. This is what every Twitter ideologue is, folks. Person with a mask and a persona. A persona which is not the true them. It's a projection of what they wish to appear as. Most of the time, it's what the world tells them they should be. The poor baby. And these poor kids, man, I lived through it, but my future children will not. Just eat them up. And then once you're a slave and you're part of the system, you then prop up the system through force. That's what violence is for. The violence is meant to force people. Violence is meant to control people. That's its only purpose. And I don't believe in controlling people. Look at that, being led by the leash. That's all true. It's how it works. Visualization. There's some guy in the background whispering in his ear. They're either a part of it, folks. They're creating the plans, or they're willing stooges. One way or the other. It's all the kingdom of Satan. Social media is awful for you. People complain to me about trying to get a hold of me on Twitter, and I'm like, yeah, I sorry, I did it years ago. I don't spend my life on social media, guys. I do this. This is the most social media I do, for the most part. Twitter's useful for other things, but same with Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. I get memes off Instagram, Discord, that kind of stuff. I could go for a martini. Are you classic martini girl, gin and vermouth? That's the question, because that vodka stuff, that ain't right. This gives me chills to watch. It really does. It's like it is an emotional, visceral response in my body, because it's like the way I feel about this. I could cry watching this. It's so sad, but this is the world that we live in. That's horrible, Holly. Jen's so good. Yep. And this isn't capitalism or anything like that either, folks. This is cronyism. It's not crony capitalism. That's stupid. Cronyism is what you get when you have centralized authoritarian powers running everything, and you manipulate the system constantly. We don't live in capitalism. We don't live in free markets. The only free markets we have are, they're black markets, like the drug market, the illicit, illegal drugs. It's funny because I actually had someone the little Twitter thing I was talking about earlier, was trying to claim that I was some sort of materialist or going after. Why don't you say things to the big churches? And I'm like, I do. I think they're gross. I think most of modern Christianity is gross. I think it's an anathema to Christ, and a lot of people are going to be really disappointed. Not all modern Christianity, mind you, but certain movements. When you see it a lot in like the black churches, especially the Baptists, where you have like a minister who's like having an affair on his wife and stuff, and he's still a minister in power. It's absolutely absurd. That never would have happened in the early church. Okay, this is on your channel, Bill? What, the video? I did a commentary on this. It's one of the first videos I made. It was me experimenting with OBS. The legal weed market here drives the dark market. It's illegal to have it and smoke, but no one goes to the government stores. Yeah, it's the same in the U.S. I mean, people go to the government stores, but a lot of the stores are run by the cartels. That's how it works. I did have another video I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to get off here. From the New York Times, and I forgot about it, but I'll probably try and cover it maybe a little bit tomorrow, because it won't be that long. It's like a 14-minute video. If not, I'll cover it next Sunday. But it's basically about how left-wing policy, Democrat policy, is actually keeping inequality in hand. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, it's rare you're going to get a leftist be self-reflective like that, and they are a little bit. So I'll take the little bit of win that it is. Now here is the ascension, the escape from all this, I believe. I actually wasn't planning on playing the whole video, but might as well. This is what happens when you free yourself. And folks, the only way to do that is to seek the truth. The truth will set you free, I promise. The more you dig, the more you get confronted with uncomfortable realities, the more that you get away from your selfishness and confront who you are, this is what happens. You're breaking down the barriers to get to your inner soul. You realize what's persona. You realize what's darkness. That's what's happening here, is this darkness is leaving them. And this is rebirth. To shatter the persona and be reborn. Fight that dragon. The phoenix, very important symbology. And there you have the glory of what men and women should be as a team together, right? And releasing the divine child, and this is the tree of life. So there's all these themes in here. This is, like I said, even if you don't understand and of course, the eyes is like a reference to the scales falling off the eyes, the waking up, the being able to see things. And it started with eyes. Because even if you don't see, you don't understand all the symbology, the symbolism in there, you know deep down when you watch something like that, what it's telling you. You know it, whether you can articulate it or not. And that's why it's so important. So, the Hari said, have the guts to speak the truth. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get out of here. No, Holly, I didn't make that video. This video is I did a commentary on this video. This video is called In Shadows. It is something I came across in my, I know you're a big Peterson fan, so in my studies of some of that stuff, what I did was one of my first videos. In fact, I think it was my first video that I used OBS on because I couldn't get OBS to work initially, was a commentary, much like I just did. This is my very first video. It's only 20 minutes, but you'll see it's just me head in the box in the glory of my hair. And, and I'm not quite framed up right. I should be a little bit higher in the frame there, but that's okay. It's okay. So Kai would be no more justified in silencing that one. So I what do I cover in that? I talk a little bit about Bastiat. I talk about Jung. Talk about many of these things. Yeah. This inaugural video addresses the mission of this channel, the importance of free speech, the psychology of ideological possession and intimidation via the lens of the philosophy of John Stuart Mill, the teachings of Christ, and the philosophy of Carl Jung. Individualization means becoming a single homogeneous being, and in so far from individuality, embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness. It also implies becoming one's own self. We could therefore translate individualization as self-realization, which is what the end of that video was about. So did it again. Anyways, guys, I want to show that to your, we'll show it to your daughter. I can, let's, oh, did I lose a viewer? Look at that. I had 276 earlier. Now I'm at 275. I must have offended somebody. Oh, no. Now they found out I'm a bigot. Yeah, so that now it's in the chat, Holly, if you want the link to it. All right, guys. Well, I made this, I had planned on making this back in the spring and I never got around to it, but while on my off time, I made an intro. So I'm going to play it as an outro too. But thank you all for being here, for staying with me for nearly 3 hours now. I thought I would go an hour and a half. But this is what I do. I appreciate it so much. And I will be back tomorrow, and hopefully people will get the idea that Bill is streaming again on his own. So appreciate you all. This has been All Minus One. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well.